I stood frozen in the marble foyer of the Meridian Hotel ballroom as my wife Amanda adjusted my tie with obvious irritation. She reminded me this corporate gala mattered for her career advancement at Pinnacle Industries, since the mysterious new billionaire owner would attend tonight. Amanda hissed her warning about staying in the back and not embarrassing her. I watched her stride away in her designer dress, leaving me alone among Denver's elite. I had no idea that tonight would shatter everything I believed about my marriage, my past, and my future. The crystal chandeliers cast golden light across the sea of black tuxedos and evening gowns as I navigated the crowded ballroom. Amanda moved through the gathering with practiced grace, her laugh echoing above the classical quartet. She introduced herself to board members and executives, her voice carrying that polished tone she reserved for important occasions. Something felt off about the way she presented herself, though I could not quite pinpoint what bothered me. I nursed a club soda near the dessert station, watching Amanda work the room like a seasoned politician. She spoke with animated gestures to a group of senior vice presidents, her diamond earrings catching the light. Those earrings had appeared mysteriously last month, along with several other expensive pieces of jewelry. When I asked about them, Amanda claimed they were costume pieces from a clearance sale. The conversations around me buzzed with excitement about meeting the new owner. Catherine Walsh had purchased Pinnacle Industries 6 months earlier, but remained completely private about her background. Business reporters had tried unsuccessfully to uncover her history before she emerged as a billionaire investor. Her sudden appearance in the Colorado business scene sparked endless speculation. I overheard 2 men in expensive suits discussing quarterly projections near the bar. Their conversation shifted to personnel changes, and I caught Amanda's name mentioned with concern. My stomach tightened as I moved closer to listen. Amanda Harrison was demoted 3 weeks ago after losing the Morrison account, the taller man said, swirling his whiskey. She's on probation now, though she's been telling people she got promoted to Director of Strategic Operations. His companion nodded grimly. She's desperate to impress Walsh tonight. Word is she's 1 mistake away from termination. The whole department knows she's been struggling since the restructuring. My blood went cold. Amanda had told me about her promotion with such excitement, describing her new responsibilities and increased salary. We had celebrated with an expensive dinner at the Brown Palace Hotel that I thought we could not afford. Now I understood why she seemed so stressed lately, why she snapped at me over minor things, why she spent hours perfecting her appearance for work events. I excused myself to the restroom, my mind reeling from this revelation. The marble walls echoed with the sound of running water as I splashed cold water on my face. How many other lies had Amanda told me? What else was she hiding behind her confident facade? When I returned to the ballroom, I spotted Amanda near the entrance, positioning herself strategically where the owner would have to pass. Her posture radiated nervous energy despite her composed expression. She checked her phone repeatedly, then touched up her lipstick using the camera as a mirror. I approached her cautiously, unsure how to bring up what I had learned. Amanda, is everything okay at work? You seem really tense lately. She whirled around, her eyes flashing with irritation. Everything is fine, Geoffrey. I told you about my promotion. Tonight is just important for networking. Her voice carried a sharp edge that made me step back. You wouldn't understand the pressures of corporate advancement. I just heard someone mention that you were demoted, not promoted, I said gently, hoping she would confide in me. Amanda's face went pale, then flushed with anger. Who told you that some jealous colleague spreading rumors? She gripped my arm tightly. I need you to stay away from these people tonight. Don't repeat gossip or embarrass me in front of important clients. Her reaction confirmed my worst fears. Amanda had been lying about her job situation probably for weeks. I wondered what other deceptions she was maintaining, and why she felt the need to hide the truth from her own husband. The classical quartet finished their piece as Amanda scanned the room anxiously. She had positioned herself perfectly to intercept anyone entering through the main doors, but her nervous energy was becoming more obvious by the minute. "I'm going to get some air," I told her, but she was not listening. Her attention was fixed on the entrance where hotel staff were preparing for someone important to arrive. As I walked away, I caught a glimpse of Amanda's purse falling open. Credit card statements spilled onto the floor, and I helped her gather them up. The numbers I saw made my heart sink. We were not just struggling financially. We were drowning in debt. Thousands of dollars in charges for clothing, jewelry, and restaurant meals that Amanda had been hiding from me. The weight of her deception settled over me like a heavy blanket. My wife was not just lying about her job. She was lying about our entire financial situation while lecturing me about not embarrassing her. The ballroom's atmosphere shifted as hotel staff moved with increased urgency near the main entrance. Conversations quieted to expectant whispers as guests positioned themselves to catch the first glimpse of the mysterious Catherine Walsh. Amanda straightened her shoulders and smoothed her dress, her jaw set with determination. I retreated to my assigned position near the back wall, feeling like an outsider at my own wife's career event. The crowd parted as security personnel entered, first followed by a woman who commanded immediate attention without saying a word. Catherine Walsh was nothing like the corporate stereotype I had expected. She moved with quiet confidence in a simple but elegant black dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary. Her dark hair was pulled back in a sophisticated twist, and her green eyes surveyed the room with sharp intelligence. She appeared to be in her early 40s with the kind of presence that made people unconsciously step aside. What struck me most was how she ignored the reception line of executives eager to introduce themselves. Instead of engaging with the board members and senior staff positioned near the entrance, she scanned the crowd methodically as if searching for someone specific. Amanda stepped forward with her practiced smile, extending her hand for an introduction. "Ms. Walsh, I'm Amanda Harrison from Strategic Operations. We're thrilled to have you here tonight." Catherine's gaze passed right over Amanda without acknowledgement, continuing her systematic visual search of the room. Amanda's smile faltered as she lowered her hand, confusion replacing confidence on her face. The business journalists present began taking notes furiously. Catherine Walsh's behavior was not what anyone expected from a new owner trying to build relationships with her management team. She had purchased Pinnacle Industries through intermediaries, never visited the offices, and communicated only through lawyers and financial advisors. I overheard a group of board members discussing Catherine's background near the champagne fountain. Their speculation ranged from tech entrepreneur to foreign investor to corporate raider with hidden agendas. One theory suggested she was building a portfolio of Colorado companies for unknown reasons. "She bought 3 other businesses in the Denver area this year," a woman in pearls whispered to her companion. "All different industries, no apparent connection except geography. Nobody can figure out her strategy." Her companion nodded thoughtfully. "The financial reporters cannot find any trace of Catherine Walsh before 18 months ago. It's like she appeared from nowhere with unlimited resources." Their conversation was interrupted by movement near the entrance. Catherine's bodyguard approached her with a tablet, showing her something that made her face tighten with emotion. She nodded once and resumed her careful examination of the crowd, her composure cracking slightly. I found myself studying her face, trying to understand what she was looking for. There was something familiar about her expressions, the way she tilted her head when concentrating, the gesture she made when brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. I could not place where I might have seen these mannerisms before. Amanda made another attempt to approach Catherine, this time with 2 senior vice presidents flanking her for credibility. Catherine continued to ignore all introductions, her attention focused entirely on scanning faces in the crowd. Her behavior was becoming the main topic of whispered conversations throughout the ballroom. The quartet began playing again, but the music felt like background noise to the tension building in the room. Catherine's unusual behavior was creating an atmosphere of uncertainty and anticipation that had nothing to do with typical corporate socializing. I watched Amanda's frustration grow as her carefully planned introduction strategy failed completely. She had spent weeks preparing for this moment, practicing her elevator pitch and researching conversation topics that might interest a billionaire investor. Now she stood ignored while Catherine searched for someone who was apparently not among the company's leadership. The crowd began to shift and murmur as Catherine's search continued. She had been in the ballroom for 15 minutes without engaging in a single conversation or acknowledging any of the introductions attempted by her own employees. Her bodyguard remained alert but relaxed, suggesting this behavior was not unexpected. Then, Catherine's systematic scan reached the back of the room where I stood nursing my forgotten club soda. Our eyes met across the crowded space, and I felt an inexplicable jolt of recognition that made my breath catch in my throat. Her composed facade cracked completely. Tears welled in her green eyes as she stared at me with an expression of profound relief and joy mixed with something that looked like 15 years of pain. She began walking directly toward me, pushing through the crowd of confused executives who had been trying unsuccessfully to gain her attention. The entire ballroom seemed to hold its breath as Catherine Walsh, one of the most powerful women in Colorado business, ignored every important person in the room to approach a man standing alone in the back corner. Catherine moved through the crowd with purpose, her elegant composure cracking with each step toward me. Amanda watched in horror as the billionaire owner bypassed every executive and board member to reach her husband, who was supposed to be invisible at this event. The classical quartet's music seemed to fade into background noise as Catherine stopped directly in front of me, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her hands trembled as she reached toward my face, then pulled back as if remembering where we were. "Geoffrey Michael Harrison," she whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. "You still have that scar on your left hand from when we built the treehouse behind Grandma's house." My world tilted sideways as I looked down at the thin white line across my knuckles, a permanent reminder of a childhood accident with rusty nails. Only one person would remember that specific detail about how I got that scar. Sarah. The name escaped my lips as a breathless question. My little sister had vanished during our family camping trip to Rocky Mountain National Park 15 years ago. Despite massive search efforts involving hundreds of volunteers and federal agents, she was never found. The official investigation remained open, but everyone assumed she was dead. "I'm Sarah," she confirmed, her voice barely audible above the ballroom noise. "I'm your little sister, Geoffrey. I've been searching for you for 15 years. The revelation hit me like a physical blow to the chest. My legs threatened to give out as memories flooded back. Sarah, at 12 years old, gap-toothed and fearless, always following me around our small mountain town. Sarah, who loved building fairy houses from pine cones and moss. Sarah, who disappeared one morning while our family slept in our campsite, leaving behind only her favorite stuffed rabbit and footprints that led nowhere. Our parents never recovered from losing her. They spent their life savings on private investigators and psychics chasing false leads and desperate hopes. The guilt and grief consumed them until they died in a car accident 5 years after Sarah's disappearance, leaving me convinced I had lost my entire family forever. How is this possible? I managed to ask, my voice cracking with 15 years of suppressed grief and sudden hope. Sarah glanced around the ballroom, awareness of our very public setting evident in her eyes. "I was taken by people who hurt children, Geoffrey. But I escaped when I was 17, and I've been building resources ever since to find you and help others who went through what I did." The crowd around us had grown silent, sensing the intensity of our reunion but unable to understand its significance. Amanda pushed through the circle of onlookers, her face a mask of panic and confusion. "Geoffrey, what is going on here?" Amanda demanded, her voice pitched higher than usual. "Why is Ms. Walsh crying? Did you say something inappropriate?" Sarah turned to face Amanda for the first time, her tears replaced by a steely composure that radiated power and authority. "I'm sorry, who are you?" I'm Amanda Harrison Geoffrey's wife and an employee in strategic operations. Amanda replied, trying to regain control of the situation. I need to apologize for any confusion my husband may have caused. Your husband didn't cause any confusion, Sarah said quietly. He's my brother. I've been looking for him for 15 years, and I bought this company because you work here. It was the only lead I had to finding him. Amanda's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor in a cascade of crystal and golden liquid. The sound echoed through the suddenly silent ballroom as the implications of Sarah's words sank in. I stared at my sister, my mind struggling to process what she was telling me. Catherine Walsh, the mysterious billionaire who had purchased Pinnacle Industries, was Sarah Harrison. My little sister, who had been kidnapped and presumed dead. She had become wealthy and powerful enough to buy entire companies just to search for her lost family. You bought Pinnacle Industries to find me. I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Sarah nodded, her eyes never leaving my face. I've been buying companies all over Colorado, anywhere I found a Geoffrey Harrison in the employee records. This was my 7th acquisition this year. I was starting to lose hope. The crowd of executives and board members stood frozen, realizing they were witnessing something far more significant than a business networking event. Phone cameras appeared as guests began recording what was clearly a major human interest story unfolding before their eyes. Amanda looked from me to Sarah, her face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and growing panic as she realized her career plans were crumbling around her. This is impossible. Geoffrey told me his entire family was dead. I thought she was dead too, I said, unable to take my eyes off Sarah's face. The police said there were no leads, no hope. Our parents died believing they would never see her again. Sarah's composure cracked again as tears rolled down her cheeks. I tried so hard to get back to you, Geoffrey. When I finally escaped and got help, I learned about Mom and Dad. I was too late to save them, but I swore I would find you, no matter how long it took. The weight of 15 years of grief, guilt, and loneliness crashed over me as I realized my sister had been alive all this time, searching for me while I grieved for her. The family I thought I had lost forever was standing right in front of me. Tears streaming down her face in the middle of a corporate gala. Amanda grabbed my arm, her grip tight enough to leave marks. Geoffrey, this is insane. People don't just come back from the dead after 15 years. You need to think rationally about what's happening here. But I was not thinking rationally, and I was looking into green eyes that matched my own, seeing mannerisms and expressions that had haunted my dreams for 15 years. This was not a mistake or coincidence. This was my sister, alive and searching for me with the kind of determination that had moved mountains. Sarah reached into her purse and produced a thick manila folder, her business-like demeanor returning, despite the tears still glistening in her eyes. The crowd of executives maintained their respectful distance, but I could see phone cameras capturing every moment of this unexpected reunion. Geoffrey, I need to show you something important, Sarah said, her voice steady but urgent. Before we go any further, you need to know what's been happening. She opened the folder to reveal a stack of official documents, photographs, and correspondence. The top page was a letter addressed to me at our home address dated 2 years ago. I had never seen it before. This is one of 47 letters my lawyer sent to your home address, Sarah explained, watching my face carefully. We also hired 3 different private investigation firms to contact you. None of them ever reached you. My hands shook as I examined the letter. It was definitely addressed to Geoffrey Michael Harrison at the correct address, with detailed information about Sarah's survival and legal documentation proving her identity. The return address belonged to a law firm in New York that I had never heard of. I never received this, I said, looking up at Sarah with confusion. I would remember getting a letter like this. The mail carrier would have mentioned something this important. Sarah's expression hardened as she looked past me toward Amanda, who had gone very pale. The private investigators reported that someone at your address was intercepting mail and blocking phone calls. They documented multiple attempts to reach you that were systematically prevented. Amanda stepped forward, her voice defensive and shrill. That's ridiculous. I would never hide something like this from Geoffrey. This is obviously some kind of scam or misunderstanding. Is it? Sarah asked calmly, pulling out a second set of documents. These are phone records from the law firm showing 17 attempted calls to your home number over the past 2 years. Each call was answered by a woman who claimed Geoffrey no longer lived at that address. I felt the blood drain from my face as I stared at the phone records. The dates and times were clearly documented, showing a pattern of attempted contact that had been completely blocked. Amanda's face had gone from pale to red as she realized the evidence was overwhelming. I also have credit card records showing that someone with access to Geoffrey's accounts has been receiving and spending money from a trust fund I established for him after our parents died. Sarah continued, her voice taking on the authoritative tone of a successful businesswoman confronting fraud. She handed me another document that made my knees weak. It showed monthly deposits of $5,000 into an account I had never seen before, linked to credit cards in both my name and Amanda's. The account had been active for 2 years, with withdrawals funding expensive purchases I knew nothing about. Amanda, I said quietly, my voice barely controlled. What is this account? Amanda's composure finally cracked completely. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she looked from me to the documents to the crowd of witnesses surrounding us. I can explain everything, Geoffrey. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. Try me, I said, the anger in my voice surprising even myself. When the first letter came, I thought it was a scam. Amanda began, her words tumbling out in a desperate rush. People prey on families who have lost loved ones. I was protecting you from false hope and heartbreak. Sarah handed me copies of several more letters, each one containing increasingly detailed personal information that only my sister could know. Stories about our childhood games, our parents' anniversary traditions, the secret fort we built in the woods behind our house. No scammer could have known these intimate family details. What about the phone calls? I asked Amanda, my voice getting louder. What about the money you've been stealing from an inheritance I didn't even know existed? I wasn't stealing, Amanda protested, but her voice lacked conviction. I was managing our finances. We needed that money for household expenses and maintaining our lifestyle. What lifestyle? I demanded, gesturing to her expensive dress and jewelry. We've been struggling to pay rent while you've been spending money from my inheritance on designer clothes and jewelry you claimed were costume pieces from clearance sales. The crowd of executives watched in fascination as my marriage imploded in front of them. Several board members exchanged knowing looks, clearly recognizing the signs of financial fraud they had seen in corporate settings. Amanda reached for my hands, her desperation evident. Geoffrey, please. I was scared of losing you. I knew that if you found out your sister was alive and you inherited money, you might leave me. I come from nothing. I don't have the advantages you grew up with. So you decided to steal from me and lie to me for 2 years. I asked, pulling my hands away. You let me believe my sister was dead while she was desperately trying to find me. Sarah stepped closer, her voice gentle but firm. Geoffrey, there's more. The inheritance is substantial. Your parents had life insurance policies and investments that have been growing for 15 years. Amanda has accessed over $120,000 that belonged to you. I stared at Amanda, seeing her clearly for perhaps the first time in our 7-year marriage. The woman I thought I knew, who claimed to love me and want to build a life together, had been systematically stealing from me while manipulating my emotions and keeping me isolated from my only surviving family member. Every fight we had about money, I said slowly, the pieces falling into place. Every time you made me feel guilty about not providing enough, you were spending my inheritance and lying to my face about it. Amanda's sobs grew louder, but I felt no sympathy for her tears. She had stolen years of my life, years I could have spent reconnecting with my sister and healing from the trauma of losing my family. The hotel security team appeared at the edge of our group, summoned by Sarah's bodyguard. They carried official documents and moved with the efficiency of professionals handling a legal matter rather than a family dispute. "I'm pressing charges for fraud, identity theft, and interfering with legal communications," Sarah announced, her businesswoman persona fully engaged. "Geoffrey, you have every right to add your own charges to the list." Amanda looked around desperately, seeking sympathy or support from the crowd of executives who had witnessed her exposure. But the very people she had been trying to impress now saw her as a thief and manipulator who had committed crimes against her own husband. I removed my wedding ring and placed it on the nearest table, my hand steady, despite the emotional chaos swirling inside me. "This marriage was built on lies, Amanda. I can't trust you, and I won't let you steal any more of my life." The hotel security team moved efficiently, presenting Amanda with official documents, while hotel guests maintained a respectful distance. Sarah stood beside me with quiet strength, her presence both comforting and surreal after 15 years of believing she was gone forever. "Geoffrey, you have to understand," Amanda pleaded as security personnel documented the evidence Sarah had provided. "I never meant for things to go this far. When the first letter arrived, I honestly thought it was a scam targeting people who had lost family members. I studied my wife's face, searching for any trace of the woman I thought I had married. What about the second letter, Amanda? And the third? What about when lawyers started calling with official documentation?" By then, I was in too deep. She admitted, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I had already lied to you about the first contact. I didn't know how to tell you without admitting what I had done." Sarah handed me another folder containing bank statements and financial records that painted a clear picture of Amanda's deception. The inheritance account showed steady deposits dating back 24 months with corresponding withdrawals that funded a lifestyle far beyond our supposed means. "You used my inheritance money to buy the dress you're wearing tonight," I said, examining the credit card statements. "You used my dead parents' life insurance money to impress people at a corporate event while telling me we couldn't afford basic necessities." Amanda's face crumpled as the full scope of her betrayal became clear to everyone in the ballroom. The same executives she had been trying to impress now watched her being questioned by security for financial crimes against her own husband. "The worst part," I continued, my voice gaining strength, "is that you made me feel guilty for not being a good enough provider. You blame me for our financial struggles while you were stealing from me every month." Sarah placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "Geoffrey, I want you to know that none of this was your fault. Amanda made deliberate choices to deceive you and prevent our reunion. You couldn't have known what she was hiding." The crowd of onlookers had grown as word spread through the ballroom about the dramatic confrontation unfolding. Hotel staff discreetly managed the situation, ensuring that the legal proceedings could continue without turning into a complete spectacle. Amanda looked around desperately, her carefully constructed persona shattered beyond repair. "Please, Geoffrey, don't let 15 minutes destroy 7 years of marriage. We can work through this together." "7 years of lies," I corrected her. "How many other things have you hidden from me, Amanda? How many other times have you manipulated me into feeling inadequate while you stole from me behind my back?" Sarah opened another section of her folder, revealing photographs and documentation that made Amanda's face go white with shock. "I also have evidence that Amanda has been sabotaging Geoffrey's other relationships and career opportunities to maintain control over his life." The documents showed a pattern of interference that went far beyond intercepting letters from Sarah's lawyers. Amanda had contacted my college friends and former colleagues, telling them I was dealing with family issues and preferred not to be contacted. She had declined job opportunities on my behalf without telling me, keeping me dependent on my current position and isolated from potential support networks. "You told my college roommate that I didn't want to attend our 10-year reunion," I said, the pieces of her control scheme becoming clear. "You said I was too emotional about my family situation to handle social events." "You were emotional about your family," Amanda protested weakly. "I was protecting you from painful reminders." "You were isolating me," Sarah interjected, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to making important decisions. Classic behavior of an abusive partner who maintains control through emotional manipulation and social isolation. The security team finished their documentation and approached Amanda with official paperwork. Her theft of inheritance funds constituted multiple felonies, and the evidence Sarah had provided left no room for doubt about her guilt. "Ma'am, you'll need to come with us to answer some questions about these financial irregularities," the lead security officer informed Amanda professionally. Amanda turned to me one last time, her desperation evident. "Geoffrey, please don't let her destroy our life together. You know me better than this. I made mistakes, but I love you." "You don't love me," I replied with sudden clarity. "You love controlling me. You love having someone who depends on you and doesn't question your authority. That's not love, Amanda. That's ownership." Sarah nodded approvingly at my response. "Real love means supporting each other's growth and maintaining honesty even when it's difficult. What Amanda did was possessive control disguised as protection." As security escorted Amanda away, the crowd of executives began to disperse, giving Sarah and me privacy for our reunion. Several board members approached to express their amazement at the evening's revelations and to offer congratulations on our family reunion. "Geoffrey," Sarah said quietly, as we found a corner away from the remaining guests, "I need you to know that I don't expect anything from you. Finding you was the goal. Whatever relationship we build from here is entirely your choice." I looked at my sister, seeing the successful woman she had become while maintaining the essential kindness I remembered from our childhood. She had overcome unimaginable trauma to build wealth and power, then used those resources to search for her lost family with unwavering determination. "I want to know everything," I told her. "I want to know how you survived, how you became Catherine Walsh, how you found the strength to never give up searching for me." Sarah smiled through her tears, the first genuine happiness I had seen from her all evening. "We have a lot of catching up to do, big brother. 15 years worth of stories to share." The weight of Amanda's betrayal still pressed on my chest, but it was balanced by the incredible joy of discovering that my sister was alive, and we had found each other again. For the first time in years, I felt truly free to make my own choices about my future. 3 months later, I sat in Sarah's downtown Denver office, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of the Rocky Mountains. The space reflected her success while maintaining a warmth that reminded me of our childhood home, with family photographs and mementos from our parents carefully displayed on custom shelves. "I need to show you something that will help you understand what I've been building," Sarah said, pulling up a presentation on her computer screen. "Catherine Walsh Enterprises isn't just a business empire, Geoffrey. It's a comprehensive support network for trafficking survivors." The presentation revealed the true scope of my sister's mission. Every company she had purchased, including Pinnacle Industries, employed trafficking survivors in management and leadership positions. Her seemingly random acquisitions across Colorado created a network of businesses that provided employment, housing, education, and therapy services for people recovering from exploitation. Each company operates profitably while serving a dual purpose. Sarah explained, clicking through organizational charts that showed hundreds of employees whose lives had been transformed by her intervention. "We provide legitimate career paths for people who often struggle to reintegrate into society after rescue. I learned that Catherine Walsh Enterprises funded rescue operations, supported prosecution efforts against traffickers, and lobbied for stronger legislation to protect vulnerable populations." Sarah had become one of America's most effective advocates for trafficking survivors, using her wealth and business connections to create systemic change. "You've saved hundreds of lives," I said, reviewing the impact statistics that showed rescue operations, successful prosecutions, and survivor rehabilitation programs funded by her organization. "Huh. We've saved hundreds of lives," Sarah corrected gently. "I want to offer you a position as Director of Survivor Services if you're interested. Your project management background and genuine empathy would be perfect for coordinating support programs across our network." The offer represented everything I had been searching for without knowing it. After years of feeling trapped in a meaningless corporate job, struggling to find purpose, while Amanda controlled my social connections and career opportunities, Sarah was offering me the chance to turn my experience into something meaningful. What would the job involve specifically? I asked already, knowing I wanted to accept but needing to understand the full scope of the responsibility. Sarah outlined a role that would combine my organizational skills with direct service to people rebuilding their lives after trauma. I would coordinate housing programs, educational scholarships, job training initiatives, and ongoing therapy services across a network of businesses in 4 Western states. The position comes with substantial responsibility and emotional challenges, Sarah warned. You'd be working directly with people who have experienced severe trauma. It requires patience, compassion, and the ability to maintain professional boundaries while providing genuine support. I thought about Amanda's attempts to keep me small and dependent, contrasting that with Sarah's offer to help me grow into something meaningful. I want to do this work, Sarah. I want to help people the way you've helped me. Over the following weeks, I began transitioning into my new role while finalizing my divorce from Amanda. Her criminal case resulted in felony convictions for fraud and identity theft, along with court-ordered restitution payments that would take years to complete. More importantly to me, she began attending therapy to address the insecurity and control issues that had driven her behavior. I never wanted to hurt you, Geoffrey, Amanda said during one of our final conversations before the divorce was finalized. I was so afraid of losing you that I ended up destroying everything we had built together. The thing is, Amanda, we never built anything together, I replied with more sadness than anger. You built a facade to control me, and I accepted it because I didn't know what healthy relationships looked like after losing my family so young. She nodded through her tears, finally beginning to understand how her behavior had damaged both of us. I hope you find happiness with your sister and your new work. You deserve better than what I gave you. My work with trafficking survivors proved both challenging and deeply rewarding. Each person I helped coordinate services for reminded me of Sarah's journey from victim to survivor to advocate. Their resilience and determination to rebuild their lives inspired me daily and gave new meaning to my own recovery from Amanda's manipulation. You're natural at this work, Sarah observed after my first month in the position. The survivors trust you immediately. I think it's because you understand what it feels like to have someone control your life through deception. The parallel had not occurred to me until she mentioned it, but my experience with Amanda's manipulation gave me insight into the control tactics that trafficking survivors had endured. While the scale and severity were completely different, the emotional patterns of isolation, dependency, and self-doubt were familiar. I never thought of it that way, I admitted. But you're right. Amanda's control was subtle compared to what trafficking survivors experience, but the psychological effects have similarities. Sarah and I spent countless hours rebuilding our sibling relationship while working together to expand survivor support programs. Our shared trauma of family loss had been transformed into a shared mission of helping other people recover from their own experiences of exploitation and control. The inheritance money that Amanda had stolen was recovered through the legal system and put to immediate use funding scholarship programs for survivors pursuing higher education. Watching young people who had endured unimaginable trauma graduate from college and begin professional careers provided satisfaction beyond anything material possessions could offer. Our parents would be proud of what we've built from their loss, Sarah said one evening as we reviewed scholarship applications from survivors across the Mountain West. They always taught us to take care of people who needed help. I thought about our parents, often wishing they could see how Sarah had survived and thrived, how we had found each other again, and turned our pain into purpose. Their love and values had sustained us through the darkest periods of our lives and guided us toward meaningful work that honored their memory. The business relationships I developed through advocacy work proved more genuine and lasting than anything Amanda's networking strategies could have achieved. When people knew you were fighting for trafficking survivors, they wanted to support your mission, rather than just extract value from your connections. You've become someone I respect, my new colleague Marcus told me after a particularly successful fundraising event. It's rare to meet people who use their platform to lift others up rather than advance their own agenda. His words reminded me how different my life had become since escaping Amanda's control and reconnecting with Sarah. Instead of feeling small and inadequate, I woke up each day with purpose and the knowledge that my work was making a real difference in people's lives. 1 year after that life-changing night at the Meridian Hotel, I stood before a group of 23 trafficking survivors at their college graduation ceremony. They wore caps and gowns purchased through scholarship funds that Sarah and I had established, their faces glowing with pride and accomplishment that represented years of hard work and healing. When I started this program, I told the graduates and their families, I thought I was here to help you succeed. But you've taught me that true success means having the courage to rebuild your life on your own terms, no matter what you've been through. Sarah sat in the front row, tears of joy streaming down her face as she watched the young people she had helped rescue walk across the stage to receive their diplomas. Each graduate represented a victory against the forces that had tried to destroy their potential and steal their futures. After the ceremony, I reflected on how dramatically my life had changed since that night when Amanda tried to keep me invisible in the back of the ballroom. Her attempts to control and diminish me had inadvertently preserved the compassion and humility that made me effective in this work with survivors. You know what's interesting? I said to Sarah as we watched the graduates celebrate with their families. If I had inherited money and status years earlier before Amanda's deception was exposed, I might have become as self-absorbed as those executives at the gala. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes the people who try to keep us small are actually protecting us from becoming someone we wouldn't respect. Your character stayed intact despite Amanda's manipulation. The past year had taught me that true strength comes from choosing authenticity over approval, purpose over comfort, and growth over control. When I stopped letting Amanda define my worth, I discovered that my real value lay in helping others discover their own potential. I'm proud of the man you've become, Sarah told me as we prepared to leave the graduation venue. Mom and Dad would be amazed by how you've turned your pain into purpose. My relationship with Amanda had ended in divorce, but not in bitterness. Her therapy helped her understand how insecurity and fear had driven her controlling behavior, and she eventually found healthier ways to build self-worth that didn't depend on manipulating others. I'm grateful that you forgave me, Amanda said during our final legal meeting. I know I can't undo the damage I caused, but seeing how happy and successful you've become helps me believe that people can change if they're willing to do the work. The scholarship program we established had grown beyond our initial expectations, providing educational opportunities for trafficking survivors across 12 states. Each semester brought new applications from young people determined to rebuild their lives through education and meaningful careers. We're changing the entire trajectory of how society supports trafficking survivors, Sarah observed during our quarterly review meeting. Instead of just providing temporary assistance, we're creating pathways to independence and leadership. My work coordinating survivor services had expanded to include training programs for other organizations, policy advocacy at the state level, and international consulting for anti-trafficking initiatives. The skills Amanda had tried to keep contained were now being used to create systemic change that would help thousands of people. The most rewarding part of my new life was the authentic relationships I had built with colleagues who shared my commitment to justice and healing. Unlike the superficial networking Amanda had encouraged, these connections were based on mutual respect and shared values. "You've found your calling," and my colleague Jennifer observed after a particularly successful legislative advocacy session. It's beautiful to watch someone discover they can turn their own healing into healing for others. Looking back on that night at the Meridian Hotel, I realized that what felt like the worst moment of my life had actually been the beginning of my real life. Amanda's betrayal had been devastating, but it freed me from a relationship built on lies and opened the door to reconnecting with my sister and finding meaningful work. The scar on my left hand, which Sarah had recognized as proof of my identity, no longer reminded me of childhood accidents and loss. It had become a symbol of survival healing and the unbreakable bonds that transcend time and trauma. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to us becomes the door to the best thing that happens to us. I told the newest group of scholarship recipients during their orientation session. Your past doesn't define your future, but it can inform your purpose if you choose to let it. Sarah and I had learned that family isn't just about shared DNA or childhood memories. Family is about the people who refuse to give up on you, who search for you when you're lost, and who believe in your potential even when you can't see it yourself. Every morning when I arrived at the office, I passed the framed photograph of our parents that Sarah had placed in the lobby. Their legacy lived on through our work, with survivors through the young people who graduated from programs they had indirectly funded, through the lives that were saved and transformed because two siblings refused to let trauma have the final word in their story. The inheritance money that Amanda had stolen and that seemed so important during our marriage now felt insignificant compared to the wealth of purpose and connection I had gained. Material security mattered, but it paled in comparison to the satisfaction of knowing that my daily work was creating lasting, positive change in the world. "We've built something beautiful from something broken," Sarah said as we stood together at the window of her office, looking out at the mountains where our family's tragedy had begun 15 years earlier. "Mom and Dad's love continues to ripple outward through every life we touch." I thought about the young people we had helped escape trafficking situations, the survivors who had earned college degrees through our scholarship programs, the families who had been reunited because our organization funded rescue operations. Each success story represented a victory against the forces that had tried to destroy human potential. True partnership, I had learned, means supporting each other's growth rather than controlling each other's choices. Sarah and I worked together as equals, each bringing our strengths to expand what was possible when two people committed to lifting others up. The business empire Sarah had built proved that success could be measured in lives saved rather than profits maximized. Every company in our network generated revenue while providing meaningful employment and support services for people society had often written off as damaged or worthless. Standing in that graduation ceremony, watching young trafficking survivors celebrate their college degrees, I felt the kind of peace that Amanda's attempts at control had never provided. This was what it meant to live authentically, to use your experience in service of something larger than yourself. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted was keeping you from your true potential? How did you find the strength to choose growth over comfort when faced with difficult truths about your relationships? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for listening to this story about family betrayal and the power of authentic connection. If this resonated with you, please hit the like button, subscribe for more stories about overcoming life's challenges, and share this with someone who might need to hear that it's never too late to reclaim your authentic self. Remember that your past experiences, no matter how painful, can become the foundation for a meaningful future if you have the courage to choose truth over comfort. May you always have the wisdom to recognize genuine love from possessive control, and may you find the strength to choose relationships that help you grow into the person you're meant to become.